أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome to the presentation on the coherence in the Qur'an. This example is taken from Dr. Fadil Saleh Asamirai, scholar of the language, from his TV show Lamasat Bayaniya. This example gives us a glimpse of how the Qur'an, number one, has a lot of coherence and cohesion, and number two, how the Qur'an, me and you, human beings, we cannot produce anything that can match it because it's at a different level. So let's just take this example and see what we can learn from it, inshallah. First ayah is from Surah Ahzab, Surah number 33. It says, وَسَبِّحُوهُ, exalt him, bukratan, morning, wa asilan, and afternoon. Exalt him, bukratan, which is morning, wa asilan, asilan would be afternoon. Correct? Okay. The second ayah says, فسبحان الله, this is in Surah Rum, Surah number 30. فسبحان الله حين تمسون, so exalted is Allah, حين تمسون, when you reach the evening, وحين تصبحون, and when you reach the morning. So, Subhanallah, exalted is Allah. Also, another way of saying this is praise Allah, glorify Allah. It could also be understood as a command. Praise Allah, glorify Allah, proclaim His greatness. Hina tumsun, when you reach the evening. Wahina tusbihun, and when you reach the morning. So you'll notice that in the first ayah it says Sabbihuhu bukratan, which is morning, wa asilan, which is afternoon. And then Fasubhanallah hina tumsuna, in the evening, wa hina tusbihuna, in the morning. Notice that in the first ayah it says morning and evening. Right? Morning and afternoon or evening. And then you have in the second one it says evening and morning. The order is reversed. Now the first ayah, the order makes sense. Morning and then afternoon, or morning then evening. The order makes sense because that's the natural order of the day. The morning comes first, and then afternoon and evening comes after. But in the second ayah it doesn't seem to make sense, because evening and then morning, it seems to be counterintuitive. To understand why the evening is mentioned before the morning, let's just take a look at the ayahs that came before this particular ayah. So here we are looking at Surah Rum, the page before. If you notice, it says أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Just pick this up here. Yes. It says أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ ما خلق الله السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إلا بالحق وأجل مسمى. Do they not contemplate within themselves that Allah has not created the heavens and the earth, and what is between the heavens and the earth, except in truth, meaning He's created that and that's the truth, and there's a purpose to that creation. وَأَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى, this is an important point, and for a specified term, meaning there's an end to this world. Okay, then he says, continues on, he says, when is that end gonna be? He says, ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. I apologize for the jumping browser, but inshallah it's okay. ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Notice, تُرْجَعُونَ. Then you will be returned. Then to Him you will be returned. When is that gonna happen? وَيَوْمَ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ. When the day of judgment begins, appears, comes about. يُبْلِسُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. The criminals will be in despair. And then he again continues speaking about it. He says, وَيَوْمَ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةِ. The day of judgment comes, يَوْمَئِذٍ يَتَفَرَّقُونَ. That day they will become separate, meaning no one's going to care about anybody else. And the good people will be separate from the bad people. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَهُمْ فِي رَوْضَةٍ يُحْبَرُونَ. As for those who had believed and done righteous deeds, they will be in the garden of paradise, delighted. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَلِقَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ فَأُولَئِكَ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُحْضَرُونَ. And as for those who disbelieved and belied our miraculous signs and the meeting of the hereafter, notice, that's an important point. فَأُولَئِكَ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُحْضَرُونَ. So they will be put in the fire, put in this terrible punishment. They will be brought to it and they will be there forever. And then he says, فسبحان الله حين تمسون وحين تصبحون. So say subhanallah when you enter the evening and when you enter the morning. The context of this verse tells you that the conversation before this verse was largely about the day of judgment. Right? Now here's an interesting observation. The evening, it comes at the end of the day. Particularly in the Arab culture, the ancient Arab culture, and in the Sharia, in Islam as well, the evening is not, the end of the day is the evening. It's not midnight. So the sunset signifies the end of the day. So the evening, it comes at the end of the day, right when the sun is setting. And the day of judgment, it comes at the end of the world. And if the entire world was a day, the entire life of the world was a day, the day of judgment will come when, in the evening, right? When the day ends, in the evening, the day of judgment will come at that time. So to correspond these two concepts, bring together, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this ayah, فَسبحان الله حين تمسون. Exalted is Allah when you reach the evening and when you reach the morning. Because all the preceding ayat over here, right, that we just looked at, they were talking predominantly about the day of judgment and what's going to happen. So number one, he connects the meaning by saying if you want to be saved on that day from the punishment, and if you want to be with the believers who are delighted in this garden of paradise, فَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ حِينَ تُمْسُونَ وَحِينَ تُصْبِحُونَ. Then exalt Allah, glorify Allah, praise Allah, believe in Him, become a better person. And then he connects them. This is the kind of coherence that all of us have in our speech, more or less. But then he goes an extra step. And then he connects the concept of the day of judgment, which is at the end of the world, the end of the day of the which signifies the life of the world, and he corresponds this with the evening by mentioning the evening before the morning in this particular surah. But in all the other surahs, when he mentions this, it comes morning and evening, morning and evening, morning and evening, always. But only in this particular case you find evening and morning. Why? So that the arrangement of the two words, evening and morning, corresponds to the overall concept that's been talked about, the day of judgment, and that is the end of the world, the evening of the world. So correspond that with the actual mention of the evening before the morning. This is incredible. This is why these subtleties and this kind of arrangement, it's not like a fluke. It doesn't happen once or twice. It happens consistently throughout the Qur'an. And all of this put together is what makes it so difficult, in fact impossible, for us to reproduce anything like it. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this presentation was of benefit to you, and I hope that it gives you a glimpse of what the Qur'an contains. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.